En el centro de la pampa vive un pimiento. Sol y viento pa' su vida, sol y viento. Sol y viento.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Patrick Barnard. Bienvenue à la 63e édition du Pimento. Hello, I'm Patrick Barnard. Welcome to the 63rd edition of the Pimento Report. Ça sera un piment en français, en anglais. Et cette semaine passée, il y a eu une assemblée très importante. C'était l'Agora Métropolitaine 2013. C'était une assemblée qui fait partie du PMAD. Ça, c'est le plan métropolitain d'aménagement et de développement. Et le PMAD va devenir réel dans peut-être 2 ans, peut-être moins. À l'intérieur du PMAD, les gouvernements, les niveaux de gouvernement ont fait un investissement déjà de 150 millions de dollars, mais c'était pour un réseau de pistes de vélo. La préoccupation principale des écologistes, des gens qui luttent pour l'environnement, c'est plutôt une ceinture verte et bleue pour la région de Montréal. Et il y a aussi un consensus. On ne peut pas s'affirmer sans protéger, sans sauvegarder les sites précieux qui se trouvent ici. Les sites comme la forêt des Hirondelles, comme le boisé Angèle et comme le site Meadowbrook. As I just said in French, there was an important meeting here in Montreal this past week. It was called the Agora Métropolitaine, the Metropolitan Agora. It's the second such assembly or meeting. They've taken place within the framework of what is known as the PMAD, that is the Plan Métropolitain d'Aménagement et de Développement, and that's really a regional urban plan. It's going to become quite important because it will come into effect in about 2 years, or maybe even less. It will have a lot to do with more than 80 cities, municipalities in the Montreal region. There's been an investment of $150 million already, but it's really for a kind of series of bicycle paths. Most people, I would say all people who are concerned about the environment here in the Montreal area, want very badly a greenway and a blueway, as it's known. Toronto has one, Montreal does not. Alors l'Agora 2013 était au Palais de Congrès. Alors je montais l'escalier mobile, j'étais impressionné par l'édifice même, mais aussi j'ai pensé que cette espèce de technologie si impressionnante est aussi un signe de notre civilisation, qui a un gros problème. On a le problème d'être conséquent avec nous-mêmes. Alors je montais l'escalier pour voir un des organisateurs de l'Agora 2013, et c'était M. Dimitri Roussopoulos.
It's interesting that the first Agora that was held in December 2010 has had this effect. Namely, it stimulated a tremendous amount of public interest. It assured the success of the public hearings on the PMAD, a tremendous response in terms of oral and written presentations. It allowed the Commission to take into consideration the idea of having an Agora every 2 years to monitor and watchdog, if I may coin a new verb, the process of implementing these grandiose ideas. And so here today begins the second Agora. And what is interesting is that there are twice as many people coming to this Agora as came to the Agora in December 2010. So the first thing that we have to understand is that issues of urban planning at the metropolitan level, what it means to put together different aspects of what a different kind of urbanization can mean, resonate with the understanding and feelings of ordinary citizens and civil society organizations. And these then put a lot of pressure on their local mayors. So there are a lot of local mayors around the suburban areas and civil servants, etc., who have decided to come to this second Agora to see what's happening and why. And that's very, very interesting, very, very significant as a social phenomenon, over and above what political results will come out of this thing.
Également, du Conseil régional de l'environnement de Laval, je vais vous entretenir sur le transport, une citation, une situation de cas et une recommandation. Une nation développée n'est pas un endroit où les pauvres ont une voiture. C'est un endroit où les riches prennent les transports en commun. Ouesto, Pedro, maire de Bogota. On a une Agora qui nous dit que hier, c'est l'affaire de tous, c'est la participation des citoyens. Mais j'ai des articles ici qui nous disent qu'il y a une coalition des maires qui se forme pour l'autoroute 19. J'ai le pressentiment qu'on va s'affronter, les maires avec le gouvernement, les maires avec le mouvement environnemental. Je pense que pour un PMAD, on devrait changer ça, s'en aller plutôt vers une concertation, et mettre tout le monde ensemble.
D'abord, 2 très belles journées de travail. C'est une expérience de démocratie participative. Ici, il y avait non seulement des élus, il y avait également des représentants d'institutions, ONG, mais il y avait aussi à peu près 400 ou 500 citoyens de l'ensemble de la communauté métropolitaine de Montréal. Et il y avait un point en commun, qui est le nouveau plan métropolitain d'aménagement et de développement. Nous en débattions selon les différents actes. Il y en a 3, comme vous les connaissez. Il y a évidemment les quartiers où on veut regrouper sur des plateformes de transport en commun. Il y a également au niveau de la participation du transport public, mais aussi de la trame verte et de la trame bleue. Donc, dans le fond, la vision, là, on l'a partagée. Qu'est-ce qu'on souhaite de notre communauté métropolitaine de Montréal dans les 20-25 prochaines années? Et moi, je suis sorti de là avec un taux d'adrénaline assez extraordinaire. Mais évidemment, il y a des conditions pour ça, puis je ne veux pas être trop naïf, là.
These so-called décideurs, these decision makers, have to be brought down to reality, and they have to partner with you and me and civil society in general. If they don't partner as equals, play different roles, but as equals, then this kind of excitement cannot be generated around this kind of discussion, this kind of debate around what a large metropolitan area like Montreal should or should not be like.
Why have you come to the Agora?
Well, I've come to see what will be done as far as protecting the tram verte, developing the tram verte in the metropolitan Montreal region. I've come also to see if certain interventions will be done to protect key sites in the Montreal region. I'm thinking about Meadowbrook, I'm thinking about Angel Woods, I'm thinking about various other sites that need to have some form of protection before it's too late. We have so little as far as green spaces that are interesting for biodiversity that we have to take the ones we have, protect them and rehabilitate where we can. But Angel Woods is a good example of this, and Meadowbrook Golf Course is a key site that could easily be rehabilitated and is extremely well located for the population to enjoy.
Why don't we have a greenway in Montreal? Is that one of the questions you will be asking people here?
Well, it is one of the goals that are now within the PMAD. There are 3 goals, and one of which is to create a tram verte or a greenway concept. Now, this greenway has to be created according to what's in the PMAD. The question is, will the measures be taken to do it? So my hope is that the measures will be taken. However, there is very little time given how little we have left. So efforts have to be done as quickly as possible to target the key sites that need to be rehabilitated. Again, like Meadowbrook, like Angel Woods, these are key sites that need protection. And we just can't afford to have developments done on them because it's going to be a loss for many generations to come.
Pour une trame verte, on a besoin de la volonté politique. Plusieurs gens disent ça, oui. Plus ou moins. Oui. C'est profondément vrai. Oui. Est-ce qu'on a ce momentum, est-ce qu'on a cette volonté après ces 2 jours?
D'abord, il y a un effet de conjoncture. Je pense qu'il faut réaliser que nous sommes actuellement sous la gouverne d'un gouvernement ou d'un État, d'un gouvernement minoritaire. Les 2 tiers de l'électorat n'ont pas voté pour celui qui assume le pouvoir actuellement. Et assumer une volonté politique sur des choses aussi sensibles que la propriété foncière dans un contexte, excusez-moi, mais capitaliste, vous savez comme moi la puissance des groupes d'intérêt. Hein? Et vous savez aussi qu'on a des oligarchies qui possèdent les médias, les principaux médias d'information, hein, qu'on pense au Journal de Montréal ou encore au Journal La Presse. Et je ne suis pas certain qu'un État qui serait interventionniste actuellement et qui dirait, par exemple, dans le cas de la trame bleue et de la trame verte, OK, avant même de procéder à la caractérisation de ces milieux-là, on va s'assurer qu'on fait un moratoire sur tout son développement. Oh, il y en a qui vont dire, attention, là, il y a des propriétés privées là-dedans. Et il y a déjà des procédures qui ont été entamées avec certaines villes. Donc, on ira à l'encontre. Et le gouvernement pourrait effectivement s'exposer à un certain nombre de poursuites. Dans un contexte minoritaire, vous le savez comme moi, la marge de manœuvre est extrêmement étroite. Cependant, la volonté politique, plus elle va s'exprimer de la base vers le haut, plus elle va donner cette pression qu'ils ont besoin pour dire, OK, avançons, accélérons le processus, et comme ça, je pense qu'on va réussir. Il y a un avocat qui disait d'ailleurs qu'on a toutes les réglementations nécessaires actuellement pour protéger les milieux s'il y a une volonté politique au niveau local.
I've heard several people who are very knowledgeable mention about a time limit of about 2 years, that there's about 2 years for the city and the region to really act. Is that your sense of things?
In one way, yes, because what happens is that each cities are going to have to develop an urban plan based on the decisions that come from the PMAD. Now, if these elements are not integrated straight off the bat in the urban plan within the next few years, as they review and redevelop their urban plans, then we're going to be too late because there'll be years where interventions are not done. We have to take advantage of the situation with the PMAD that says a tram verte, a greenway has to be protected, has to be created, and we have to make sure that that is integrated within the urban plans to come and within what is called in French the schéma d'aménagement, the plans that will lead to the creation of these urban plans. So basically these next year and a half, 2 years are critical so that throughout this process the measures needed to create the tram verte, create the greenway are put in place now, otherwise we'll be too late.
Je crois qu'il y a encore une très, très bonne participation citoyenne, malgré le fait que ça soit tenu en semaine, durant les heures de travail. Il y avait beaucoup de jeunes intéressés à la protection des milieux naturels. Je trouve que la communauté métropolitaine de Montréal a fait un excellent travail. Vraiment, je suis très, très satisfait.
Et est-ce qu'on a parlé assez d'une trame verte, d'un vrai tram verte pour Montréal? Est-ce qu'on a vraiment adressé ce problème-là?
Je crois sincèrement qu'il manque encore de diffusion d'informations et d'implication de la part des citoyens pour le cadre de la trame verte et bleue. On n'en a peut-être pas assez parlé. On n'a pas assez parlé aussi des projets plus précis, donc l'application de la loi versus la communauté métropolitaine de Montréal, parce qu'il va y avoir un problème par rapport à ça. On a su qu'il y avait des projets qui avaient été refusés par la communauté métropolitaine de Montréal, qui avaient été autorisés par le ministère du Développement durable. Donc, il y aura un arrimage important à faire. Il faudra vraiment discuter de ça, ça va être extrêmement important. Je crois que la majorité des citoyens, même certains maires, certains élus, étaient vraiment heureux. Il y a vraiment une synergie, justement, qui se fait là, entre les citoyens, les différents groupes environnementaux et les élus. Il y a une discussion qui ne se faisait pas avant, qui maintenant est très, très ouverte sur la protection des milieux naturels, le transport en commun, bon, plusieurs trucs. La seule chose qui est manquante pour moi présentement, c'est le gouvernement du Québec qui n'est pas très, très présent ou qui n'est pas vraiment au courant du dossier de la ceinture verte et bleue. Ça me déçoit beaucoup.
The value for me has been the networking that I've done. I've been talking about Meadowbrook to a lot of people. Had an opportunity to talk to Scott McKay just a few minutes ago. Gave him some documentation. Have hit up on just about all of the important players on the PMAD, the people that have had key roles. Mayor Deschamps of Repentigny, Mayor Simon of Chateauguay, Madame Roy from Saint-Julie. So I've had a chance to talk to them, meet them, and I think that's what we all should be doing now, is just keep repeating the same message that it's all very nice, but there's some extra work to be done. One of the points that I made yesterday at the microphone was that the documentation seems to indicate that after the 5 projects that they've announced are complete, we'll have attained the 17%. And I reject that completely. I reject it outright. And I've said to them that a bicycle path, while I encourage them to do it, I think it's a great idea, cannot be counted as part of the 17%. The City of Montreal is host to the Convention on Biodiversity, the United Nations Secretariat for the Convention on Biodiversity. As host city, I think we have a responsibility that goes beyond all other cities, and we should be taking the 17% seriously and probably looking at going beyond the 17% to say maybe 20 or 25%, and that the 17% should be at least protection of biodiversity. So it's not the corner park, it's not the soccer field at the end of the street, it's really natural, wooded areas, wetlands, the areas that are rich in biodiversity. And the Montreal region, as we've heard just a few minutes ago, is the richest region of the province in terms of biodiversity.
Et dans l'année 89, dans la dernière séance de la CEM, le Conseil a dépouillé 200 millions de dollars pour la protection des milieux naturels seulement sur l'île de Montréal.
David Fletcher, you just made a remark in the plenary session, reminding people that 20 years ago, more than that, $200 million was devoted for the island of Montreal, and here we're talking about really $50 million for the region, $150 million for the region. We did a discussion when the PMAD came up with all of this, and you gave your criticism then. Well, what's your view about this Agora the last 2 days?
Well, you know, there's a lot of spin. That's what I can say. I don't think we're starting from, you know, a clean page and working a new parody. You know, this is a stagecoach with a motor replacing the horse. It's still antiquated. It's not thinking that is really the kind of thinking that we need. We need to start from square one and re-engineer how we're going to look at this community. Now, my particular comment in there had to do with, you know, the patting on the back that's been going on here and all the applause that's been coming from the audience, but they don't understand that there's a history here. In 1989, at the last meeting, after 2 years of intense lobbying by the Green Coalition, we managed to get Michel Hamelin and the Montreal urban community to devote $200 million towards natural space conservation on the island of Montreal. We'd asked for $500 million because we recognized that that's the amount that really would have been needed, but we took the $200 million and we're happy with it. And almost immediately in 1990, some critical pieces were secured. But then in 1992, with the downturn in the economy, Vera Daniluk chose to put a moratorium on that spending. So $100 million was left unspent, and that could have gone towards saving the 1,000 hectares of land on Montreal Island that were lost over the next decade, up until the time Tremblay came into office. So if I measure that, that's $1990, and if I measure that against the $150 million in 2013 Canadian dollars, right, it sure looks like chump change. This is for an area and you know, that is 9 times as big as Montreal Island, and you know is being paid for by taxpayers twice as large as what there were on Montreal Island at that time or now. So you know, really, this is not serious conservation. I think also the fact that $60 million out of that $150 million is going to pay for a cycle path that has absolutely zero, nothing to do with conservation. It's a social project that has merit at that level, but it is not conservation. And it is biting deep into the monies that have been made available, making them less, right, effective.
David, I have heard...
And I feel angry about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I've heard Tommy Montpetit and other people say something which I think is accurate, and that is that the metropolitan region of Montreal has about 2 years to get serious about a greenway, and if they don't, that's not going to happen. Is that your view too?
I'm absolutely convinced of that. As I said, I've cited what happened on Montreal Island through a lack of political will, political commitment to action. We lost 1,000 hectares. That was almost half of what was available at that particular time. So yes, absolutely. The developers aren't going to be letting grass grow under their feet, or trees or anything else grow under their feet. They're going to be moving to get the spades in the ground and get development done. And you know, given the history of what we've seen with the Charbonneau Commission over the last little bit, who's to say that you know, there won't be arrangements made that allow some of that very important land to be lost.
Now, Don Hobus, whom you know very well, said that he has been networking with many people here. Given your sense of urgency, are you planning to get together with Tommy Montpetit, Guy Garon, and other people who are here to try and basically alert them to be even more vigorous in the months to come?
Well, yes, we have actually, as part of the committee for the Mouvement Ceinture Verte that is pushing that, that's Carol Méran and the David Suzuki Foundation has taken a leadership role on that. I'm part of that, and certainly I'll bring my criticisms to them and tell them and convince them that really we're not getting any value out of this whole process. We're really being shortchanged. We're being treated for fools, essentially.
Dita Burku,
yes.
Why have you come to this Agora?
Well, I've already accomplished one of my first objectives, which was to speak with the director of the CMM, Mr. Iuzzoni, and talk to him about Meadowbrook and talk to him about what it takes to preserve a green space on the island of Montreal. We need two things. We need political will. We need regulations which are going to set proper proximity setbacks for technological risk. That is, that we shouldn't be building next to railway yards. And we need to recognize Meadowbrook as an important green space, the last major green space on the island of Montreal.
Patrick Ashe said that he confirmed to me, I said, well, a lot of people say we have about 2 years to really act properly here. Is that your sense of things?
Well, I think that, you know, I've been at it for 22 years, so I'm not going to say it's going to be resolved in 2 years. I would hope that it gets resolved. But what we need is a lot of pressure from the public recognizing the urgency. If we have to feed polar bears in the Arctic because they can't fish on melting ice, then we better well recognize that we're going to have to support our green spaces, because that's the habitat for all our animal life.
For the health of our children and the lives of our grandchildren.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's a question of public health.
Alors que toutes les 8 secondes se génèrent des profits immondes chez les grandes multinationales qui croient que le droit fondamental d'accès à l'eau doit devenir commercial. Aujourd'hui, la source est cotée en bourse et on se calisse bien de la ressource. On nous dit que c'est inépuisable, pas besoin de gestion viable, un signe de piastre au bout de l'eau potable. Pendant que les rivières coulent à flot, certains font de l'argent comme de l'eau, sans se soucier des écosystèmes. C'est même plate à dire, mais ça a l'air que c'est ça le du problème.